Hey there, everybody. Welcome. I am Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. I am a book publisher, and it's my greatest honor to publish world-changing wellness books that honor the business success of my authors as much as the healing journey of my readers. You guys are going to find our books have an awareness and energy that inspires your biggest, juiciest, best possible life. And I have a really special treat for you today. The authors of a new book called The Ancestors Within: Reveal and Heal the Ancient Memories You Carry are here with me to talk about ancestral healing. You guys, reading this book took me to another level of possibility when it comes to healing. I'm so excited to be introducing you to the amazing authors and master teachers stepping up in this book. So let me introduce them to you now, get my little screens right. Please help me welcome Arielle of the Collective Consultation, interpreting the vibrational communications of the collective. I have Dina Chester, the owner of Accept Your Power, and an expert certified hypnotherapist and life coach who specializes in past life regression. Jacqueline Kane is with us, medical intuitive, specializing in stopping your physical and emotional pain now. Welcome, ladies. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you all for stepping up and saying yes to this amazing book and this project. I'm so excited to introduce the world to your stories, your topics, and really thank you for taking on the challenge of not only sharing that authentic, vulnerable story, but then stepping up and teaching the readers one of your powerful tools. It takes some skill to get that down into words. You know, you guys are all master teachers and you do that every day, but to be able to put that down in words so our readers can have a practical experience is badass, y'all. So thank you for that. Arielle, I'm going to start with you today. Tell everybody about this beautiful chapter that you wrote.
Well, the first half of my chapter is about a critical situation in which my own non-physical counterpart assisted me with one of my children who was in ICU at the time. And it was very much a surprise to me, the entire event. And that would take years of unfolding for me to be able to accept all of the details of it in a way that I could receive it. Which certainly was significant in leading me to the work that I do today and just stepping back into who I am instead of who I'd become to make other people comfortable, including one or two of my ancestors. So then the second half is one of my ancestors coming through in a session of the collective consultation.
Do you remember when that first happened to you? Like, can you give our listeners an idea of how you even started down this path?
Well,
knowing they were there in the first place and being able to have that communication?
Well, interestingly, I knew they were there when I was my daughter's age in that event. But I clamped it down to make other people feel comfortable with their beliefs that they'd chosen, just to honor those. And so I was always intuitive. I always recognized that there was something a little different about me. But of course, as you know, in our youth, we see that as weird. We don't see it as a good thing. So this event was definitely life altering for me, you know, certainly for my daughter, but for me as well.
I think that a lot of healers and practitioners and coaches who have had experiences and can say, like you just did, I knew from a very young age, there was a place where, well, they came into it, I don't know, in a little bit more powerful, empowered way, maybe more as an adult, but I'm wondering what you might say to somebody who's still clamping that down.
Well, I think I would tell them to use one of my tools. So I offered two tools in mine. One of them is a tool, an energy healing technique that my non-physical counterpart taught me that day. And then the other is just what they term as blank slate meditation, they meaning the collective. Um, and interestingly, that was one of the things that I never let go of. So throughout all those years that I had clamped it down to make other people feel comfortable, I never did let go of the blank slate meditation. So my family saw that as spacing out. But the truth is, it was keeping my vibration at a level that I could be comfortable with, despite my surroundings and trying to be somebody I really wasn't.
Yeah, thank you, Arielle. The power in these chapters, you guys, is really it's just an awakening. I think you all are teaching awareness tools. We're going to talk about awareness a little bit later in the interview, but it's so amazing to have so many unique perspectives. And again, I'm so grateful to you all for being willing to share these personal but very powerful stories. Dina, I'm going to ask you to talk about your beautiful chapter. Tell us a little bit about what you wrote about, your story, your tool, all of it.
Sure, absolutely. And Arielle, I loved your story. It so
Thank you
resonated
so much.
with me.
Thank you.
It's so powerful. So check out her chapter for sure. My chapter is chapter 9, and it's Hear the Whispers of Your Ancestors. And my background is healthcare, but then I do hypnotherapy and life coaching. So my chapter is about a past life and connecting with a child, which I think is my inner child, but it also is in another life, and a grandmother that came in. And it was life changing for me. I was at a transition point, but I got her wisdom. So it was a transition, and I was back to that little child. She gave me the hope that I needed because I was ready to get out of the corporate, out of that world, and move into something. And I'm a math science major, so hypnotherapy and those things I do seemed real woo-woo. But to have that connection with an ancestor, and she told me, she came and she's like, oh, and she was fun. It's like, oh, you're a healer like me. And I'm like, it was years into my practice before I would even say healer. But then I would think about her. So the connection with the ancestors is so powerful. And in that situation, it was like a Native American background. And I've done that a lot in my past lives. That comes up a lot. So it's such a comfort to know that we have their wisdom, and they paved the way for us so much so we can learn from their experiences. So I was just thrilled when this opportunity came up to put this in the book. And the tool that I do is I actually guide you on a past life regression so that you too can tap into their wisdom. And all we have to do is allow. They're there, they're waiting on us. It's just thrilled to have this opportunity.
So how would you talk about the woo factor here for someone who we hope that they are listening with enough of an open mind and curiosity to hear the possibilities here? That's what I'm always asking. What else is possible? What don't I know yet? What's possible in terms of my healing? But I want to know what you specifically would say to someone who is hearing it and just hasn't gone there in terms of even understanding that there are past lives.
For me, it's huge. And I think there's others out there, but part of what makes, like I said, I'm a math science major. I was in healthcare. I saw the spirit of the people. There were the people who clinically should not have made it, but they did. And then the flip side, there was some that really weren't that sick. So I began to question It's like, what is going on with these people? This isn't medical. There's something in the soul, something in the spirit. So that's what led me into the hypnotherapy. And I went in like this with arms crossed, like, I don't know about this. But once I learned that you're in total control and it's you, basically, sometimes I say I dehypnotize people because we're in the false beliefs and it's, you know, and you have all the gifts. So the past life is my favorite of the hypnotherapy. And even if you don't believe in reincarnation, we think in metaphors. Our subconscious, that's how it thinks, very childlike. So it's like stories. So it's like if you do a past life, it's a story, and you tap into what you need to know. And very often it's the gifts. Very often it's the ancestors come through, or past lives, and sometimes it's a combination. So I would say just give it a try. Because like I said, I'm the most analytical, I'm that left brain person, but once I saw those stories and what's in your subconscious, and it's so healing, just give it a try.
Yes, give it
so
a
powerful.
try, right?
Yeah.
I love talking to a handful of the authors in this project and other projects who part of their story is where they came from in terms of that left brain, analytical brain, science, math majors. And they're like, listen, people, if I can get there, you know, get there. That's awesome. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you.
Jacqueline, tell us about your beautiful chapter.
Well, first of all, I'm so honored to be here with you ladies. There is so much wisdom and healing in this book, and it's time for this information to come out. I had a lot of fun writing my chapter because it was the first time I put down in words why I'm so passionate about ancestral energy clearing, because like I write in the chapter, and my chapter is chapter 8, unlock your ancestral story and take charge of your life. Our family was planning a vacation to Ireland. And when we first started talking about it, it was not happening. My in-laws were like, we're not going. And then I spent the 3-day weekend at this conference, and soon after he did this ancestral energy clearing, immediately my phone started buzzing saying, my son found a house, my husband got air flights going, everybody's on board. And I'm like, what just happened? And you know those moments in life when you have to like pay attention, because this is really, really important. So that was my first experience with it. And then, of course, we had a fabulous time, and my mother-in-law still says she wants to keep going back, and it was her favorite trip. So I use it in my practice because I get a lot of people who are living with physical pain. And when you look at ancestral energy, what I discovered was it impacts like 4 different areas. So it impacts your health, your ability to create cash flow, have deep connections, and also the ability to stand in your power. So if you're one of these people who are living with physical pain and you've tried everything, this may be the next thing to share. So in my chapter, I take you through a process to understand your ancestral story, because awareness is the first step, and we have to understand what is it that I'm carrying. So in my chapter, I take you through a process to discover what it is, and then a process to heal it and transform it and move forward to live the life you were meant here to live. Because like Arielle said, when we realize as a child that I can't be me, we take on a whole new persona, a whole new personality. And then when we reach our 40s, 50s, and 60s, we realize that's not working for us. And we have to undo who we became. So
I love thinking about that piece of the awareness. You all talk a lot about the repetitive patterns that are showing up in our lives. I've seen a theme through the chapters in terms of this being one of the best coolest things we can heal, but we kind of have to know it's there first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise we go through life thinking I'm good. And I hear so many people say, pain just runs in my family. It's just the way it is. You can't do anything about it. You can do something about it. You can. This is it.
Yes. Okay. So, Jacqueline, I'm going to actually stick with you for this next question that I'm going to go around to all of you to answer. And I want to continue to talk about that awareness because I think it's so important. I would say foundational to this journey. Like, if we're interested in a juicy, full, vibrant life, we need to understand that it's the awareness that is going to be the foundation for all the good things, right? So talk to me about it in terms of your own personal journey and practice. How important has this been? What is that like for you?
For me, it's a daily thing that I look into. So I have goals in my business. I have goals for my health. And if I'm not reaching them, then I constantly look at what am I getting? Because our inner stories create our outer stories, our outer perception, our world. And if I'm not receiving what I want, then it's inside of me. So I'm always asking, okay, what is showing up for me? So, and it hit me really hard one day when I was bringing my mother to her doctor's visits. And she would constantly say, nothing's working. It's not going to help. I'm always going to be in pain. And I'm like, boy, she has this belief that nothing's working. And I didn't find out till about 5 years ago that my mother was actually blind in one eye and she can't hear in one ear. So basically she had to work doubly hard just to be normal. And when I heard that phrase, I was like, where is that in my life? Where is that happening in my business that I'm working 24/7 to have a business just to have mediocre results? So it's constantly, what's the energy that I'm carrying? What are the beliefs I believe that are creating my outward results?
I love powerful questions and moving into the curiosity. That's a part of my awareness practice as well.
Yes.
And I just wrote 3 down that you had shared. What is showing up for me? And we were saying it earlier, in a repetitive pattern kind of way. What is showing up? What keeps showing up? And then what beliefs are showing up? Do I even know that? Like, I love that one that you said about her because I hear it so often. I don't love it. I just notice it that
Yes.
a lot of people say that. And I want to like shake them and go, do you realize what you just said? Like you're making that real and you don't understand that it's this ingrained belief. Talk to me about that just a little bit more.
Oh my God, our ingrained beliefs. Because another step of healing, I help people understand law of attraction. We're manifesting all the time. So by saying nothing's working, you're constantly repeating more situations to prove that true, right? So it's the gerbil on the hamster wheel. You have to pay attention to what you're saying. So I love the words cancel, clear, and delete that, because you don't want that happening. You don't want that showing up. And I think I really took this on stronger when I said, I am no longer going to gossip. I'm no longer going to hang out with people who talk about other people. And I have to stop it myself because I was continuing that pattern. And that's not the life I wanted. So it's a lot of what inside of me do I need to change to become who I want to be, to achieve what I want to achieve, and just constantly looking at that.
I love it. Powerful, powerful awareness. Dina, talk to me about awareness. Take this conversation a little further. How has that shown up for you, your practice, your personal journey?
Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
That's for sure.
And I think so often, self-included, sometimes we walk through life and just this numb. I mean, my story was, it was the corporate, and I'd move up and I'd step down because I didn't like it. So I had that belief, because I come from the coal fields in Virginia where women did not do, very often you were told you can only do this, you're married by you're 18 and you have your children, all those things, and all that's fine. But I kept stepping out, but I could hear, sometimes there was like that little unsettled voice. So I'm like, well, what is that? Is that true? So I think the awareness is sometimes to just question, is that true? Because our subconscious mind is so childlike, and that's kind of how it thinks. And sometimes I give thoughts have legs. Actually, I do some webinars on that, and people look at me like, what? But it's that awareness of what you think or say. Your subconscious is like, and the perfect example is like weight loss. If you say everything I eat goes to my hips, your subconscious is there to support you. It doesn't care one way or the other, actually, but it will support you. So if that's your thought, or if you think, well, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, your subconscious is like, okay, I'm there with you, I will help you in this. And there you go, you feed. So it's that awareness. So sometimes it's like, if something rattles, comes through your mind, it's just ask yourself, is that true? And the more you do it, the more you will, even if sometimes you're like, oh, yes, that's true. But if you start to just be aware, you can feel it in your body and your soul. And it's just that awareness of, well, is that true? And sometimes what I do, and I've probably got 2 or 3, but I have I journal a lot. I teach classical and journaling, but it's just to write it. Even interview yourself. Because I'll say, okay, I'm not good enough to, and then just write your answer, like you're interviewing. And that's where your awareness starts to come through. You'll start to see. And like I said, there's just so much of just asking, is that true? Or, because sometimes you'll ask and it's like, well, I don't know. And that's where we get the conditioning, very often the false beliefs. And a lot of times what we pick up as children is best intentions, or that's how they were raised, but just ask that question, is that true? Is that true for me? And just have that awareness of how it resonates in your soul. And if you think, and honestly, if you even ask the question, then that's an area to explore. There's something leading you to say, let me look at that.
Yeah, there's a power in that curiosity and turning things into a question. I'm also an avid journaler and use journaling as one of my main awareness tools. Is probably my biggest go-to.
Me too.
I know a lot of you do use that tool. For listeners who aren't using that yet, it is super powerful way to ask these questions, and then something in you answers them. And when you really connect to that place, it can be amazing.
And just one little tip sometimes is write with your non-dominant hand. Mm-hmm. And I have had huge realizations doing that, because like I teach in hypnotherapy, it gets you past your conscious mind. And you get over that. You're like, I can't write this way. I can't. And you can drop down into what your soul's saying. And it's just huge. So sometimes I'll write the question with my right hand, but then I answer with my left hand. And I have had, it's huge.
Tried to write my name with my left hand before. It didn't go so well.
Hey, it might be another name in another life or an answer.
Arielle, talk to me about awareness and in terms of your own personal journey, how important has this been for you?
Well, kind of like Dina was saying, it was very significant to me that I just started to kind of pause, even midstream in a sentence, and ask myself, is that how I feel? Is that my perspective? Um, and I realized most of the perspectives that I was speaking into creation, Jacqueline, um, weren't my own. They weren't even things I believed in. It was just things that I did to honor other people's beliefs. And at some point, I had to decide which is more important, that I create the life that I want and that I feel good about, and that I'm comfortable and other people being influenced by, or honoring somebody else's beliefs and respecting the fact that they're creators too. Let them create what they want, and let myself create what I want, to include assisting other people. So
This theme came up of a couple of times, and I think it's so important, and it's such a gift, I think, to our listeners who are dabbling with discerning in their awareness practice, what's theirs and what's not theirs. I don't know. I just want to, it's like, I want to ask you to talk about that more. That is so powerful. And sometimes in the beginning of the practice, I know for myself, I had no idea. It all felt like mine. And I would go down that black hole so often until I started to hear the idea, this might not be yours, Laura. Like, just take a breath here, right? I don't know. How did you even enter that world of that practice at first?
well,
You told us already that you started from a very young age, understanding these things.
To say,
Yeah.
so when I say they, I'm referring to the collective, and that can come in many, many forms. They would use whatever my crack of least resistance was. So whatever I would still allow in is how they would come to me. Sometimes it was my sense of smell to let me know I wasn't alone. For example, I remember sitting in my bedroom floor as a child. And I guess it was a pretty uncomfortable time, but as a child, we don't really recognize that. And all of a sudden, I was just surrounded by the smell of roses, and I knew they were pink. And I still have this vivid memory of that. They would come through in my dreams, that whatever I was willing to let in through animals, through my relationships with animals, because nobody was actively telling me what a relationship with an animal has to look like, but I was being actively guided on what relationships with other humans should look like. So I still had that freedom with the animals. And so the collective, so ancestors, people have a lot of words that they're comfortable with. Some people might say angels, some people might say guides. I tend to term it the collective, would come through in those avenues. So without that awareness, I don't know. I don't know what life would have looked like. It was very significant throughout the whole of my life. And of course, today it's what I do all day, every day. So I ask in my everyday things, I'd like you to help me with this. And I know that there's someone, always an ancestor, often an ancestor whom I didn't get to bond with for often because of somebody else's perspective of that person that I never met. My great 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 grandmother, well, certainly I didn't meet her. So sometimes I'll ask, and I kind of leave it an open-ended question for some assistance and whatever, picking out the top I'm going to wear today for this interview. Next thing I know, my Native American great 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 grandmother is helping me pick out a top for today. A top that I'll feel good in, that I'll just be comfortable in.
I love how you talked about how we are conditioned to understand how we're supposed to relate to humans, but maybe not animals. And so since that's a little bit more free and open, those messages could be coming through animals or in different ways. You mentioned smell. So I kind of want to repeat what Arielle said about that for our listeners. You know, those are the ways. And when your awareness is open and you're paying attention to what those things are that you're sensing, whether it be when you're with your animals or smelling pink roses or whatever it is, we're so quick to doubt and second guess it at first until that becomes a bit stronger skill, I think. And that's what I love now about my own awareness practice, is that I trust it. I just trust what I'm sensing. There is no reason to doubt it. And there's no one that can tell me any different, right? And I've just created that. I call them sometimes ninja moves of awareness, because as you practice, they get stronger, they get quicker, they get more sure, steady, and solid and powerful, right? Dina, I'm going to start with you for this next question. And as you can tell, you guys, I love understanding what else is possible in terms of healing. And what I want to know, Dina, is talk to us about something you realized was possible when you started to dabble with ancestors and healing.
I think probably my first connection was with some ancestors when they were alive, with some grandmother, and the mountain wisdom. And they would give you the little snippet that was always in a quiet place because you didn't talk about those things. Sometimes it was to tell you to listen to the earth, and they'd be like, oh, the earth has wisdom, and these trees, they have energy, and they have life, and they have stories. And I would think, trees have a story? You know, because so the little me would be out, put my ear up, like, what's your story? Of course, I didn't know what wisdom that really was. And I think that was my first inkling. But like I said, it was things they didn't talk about, which is kind of sad. Or when they told you, it was like, I'll just tell you these snippets, because the culture was, you know, you just work and do the things you do and don't talk about. So I think my first ancestors was actually, you know, those that I knew. But then I'd get the little snippets later on of just wisdom, things of, and I would think, where'd that come from? That's not true. And eventually I learned that if something comes to me and it's like totally off the wall, and even when I work with clients, sometimes I'll hear a phrase and I'm like, I'm not sure what that's about, but to honor it and like you said earlier, be curious. So if something crosses your path, and very often I think that's that ancestor wisdom coming to us. And I think we've I think Arielle mentioned, you know, our guides, whatever it is to you. So something like, oh, what's that about? Not what I would usually think. Then give it some space and honor. And there's nothing like being curious and then just asking that question. Oh, what's that about? And if you ask those questions, then your ancestors, they're there, and they pave the way for us a lot of times. They just want to help. And sometimes it's all you have to do is ask. It's like,
I think it's important to mention that you don't have to hear the answer right away. And I think we get frustrated because we're told to connect with them like this. And then we're like, you know, back to that arms crossed thing, like, well, come on, Like, let's go. I want my solution, like, but sometimes so we just flipped right back out of the connection as soon as we do that.
Mhm.
And we have to come back into that quieter space and trust the other senses, right? Aside. Yeah. So I've been impatient before.
I do not pray for patience because I don't want the opportunity to get more.
No, I think sometimes we should say a little more often for those who are kind of new to these schools of thought. Be really open-minded about what an answer might look like.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how it
And
might.
how you're going to receive it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many different beautiful ways. That's exactly what I'm talking about, that I had to learn to trust. Were those other things coming in? It started to be things like a hawk sighting, or the repeating numbers showing up, or an idea that kept coming back, or right, all of the different ways. I think we need to write this book next, and here's all the signs. It's like the cheat code. Here's
your
all the
sign.
opportunity.
It would be such a great book.
It would. It would. So Arielle, so keep going on this one. What's something that you realized was possible in terms of healing when you began to truly connect with the ancestors like this?
Well, my gut instinct answer is anything. What's possible? Anything. That's my answer. Because that's in our openness to receive it that we find our truest strength, our truest power. But that requires a lot of letting go of those things that we've come to think of as our own, that perhaps never were, often never were. Do I feel like I can't receive this answer? No, that was somebody else's belief. It's okay if I receive it today. And I'm not dishonoring anyone to receive it. I think that's huge for a lot of people, feeling like they have to honor the beliefs of someone else, perhaps from 100 years ago. Who knows where those came from. Often in my session work, I'll have ancestors come through and they reveal the source of a belief that just ruled their existence, their physical existence. And it was very detrimental to them. And it'll turn out to be something that happened when they were 4 or 6. And it was someone else's fear affecting their belief structure, and they just never did get over it during their physical lifetime. So then as ancestors, they reach out and say, hey, wait a second, you might look at that again. I mean to teach you that. I'm so active today. Would you listen to me today? So
I love that. I have experienced that, and it's y'all realize we're laughing about this, so like a sense of humor is required here. And I think ancestors have a sense of humor.
absolutely.
They'll also show up in that way if that's the way you need to receive it, right? So I think it's nice to be lighter about these topics and understand that it's like an adventure and a journey, and you're about to embark on a journey to feeling like you have magical powers. I hesitate to use the woo word magical, but it does feel like that when you're connected on a regular daily basis, and you can have clear clarity about the decisions of your life, right? It feels really good like that. Jacqueline, let's keep going on this. What did you learn was possible?
Well, actually, my clients show me what's possible also, in the realm of physical pain. My one client after ancestral energy, her low back pain had gone away, and she realized that it was passed down, hadn't returned. In the form of cash flow, I worked with a client this week, and we didn't even work on money. We just worked on, she was carrying just so much heavy energy from her ancestors and from living in Poland and abuse. We cleared all that. And soon after, her mother's like, here's $3,000 for a car. And oh, by the way, that lawsuit that was going is done. Just come in, sign the papers, and we'll give you a check. And that happens all the time. Like people, just money opens up when you clear this line, because your ancestors that came before you, they had it really tough and they're still carrying that energy. When you clear that and heal them, they're free, but you also, and you also get to clear it for your future family. So, and relationships heal. All that weird stuff just goes away.
You guys know what she's talking about, don't you? That weird stuff. We all have a little bit of that weird stuff in our relationships, and who wouldn't want more cash flow? And it sounds funny to be talking about those things, but those are the practical things that begin to feel magical.
Yes.
Do ancestral healing, right? That's what's so awesome about this and this entire book. Oh my gosh. Okay. I got one more for you. We're going to have to do the speed dating version of this question, but I think it's important. I want you to think about the listeners too as you answer. Jacqueline, I'm going to stick with you. So, you know, I think self-care is so important. I take it on as one of my jobs as a healer, person who is helping other people in the world, to take exceptional care of myself so that I can serve from an overflow and, you know, obviously not burn out. So share one powerful self-care tool you love and use regularly, and why.
I get horizontal. I lay down, whether I need a nap or whatever it is, because mostly I don't have sustainable energy inside of me, so I can burn out easily. So lying down is the best thing for me, and taking a little cat nap.
I love that one so much. I use it as well. And sometimes just a change in the position, get yourself, your bones off of the gravity, let yourself float on the bed or the floor. I love that one. Dina, how about you? Talk to me about one self-care tool you love and use.
Mine is, I actually did that yesterday. It's like, I need to do this, is soaking, and I live in Arizona, so waters, you know, so I don't have that. So I will soak like Epsom salts, and I light a candle and listen to, so you're detoxing, but you can't do a lot when you're in water. So it brings that stillness back in. And like I said, you're just that awareness, and just to say, hey, you know, I'm worth taking this time. So kind of like you're talking about laying down, but for me, it's, you know, I'll
in
just
the water.
soak in the water. It's a luxury in Arizona, but it's like, yeah, just connecting to all the elements and
Really nice.
taking care.
Yes, the bath. Love the bath. All kinds of things we can do with the bath, and making it fancy or not. Meditating in there, just laying there. And even sometimes for some people, the idea of that is that slowing down long enough to take a nice bath. Oh my gosh, yeah. Arielle, how about you?
Well, interestingly, I was going to give a very similar answer to all of you. I was going to say,
we all want to lay down right now.
In whatever position you are most comfortable in. For years, I meditated standing up, and I'd never heard of anybody else doing that. But there was a specific position that I just knew I needed to stand in to just kind of come into center. I avoid using the woo-woo terms too, but that's kind of how it felt. Was I was just kind of, yeah, just being in one place at one time and letting everything else fall away. And over the years, I realized I often come out of those meditations with a new perspective that is just gratifying beyond description.
Yes, I'm writing it down. Be at one place at one time. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So listeners, these beautiful ladies are hooked up in our show notes with their websites. Please come on down in there and explore, learn more about them. And of course, the Ancestors Within book launches into the world on May 4th. Be sure to join us for our live stream book launch party event on the Brave Badass Healers Facebook page. where all of our authors are going to be gathering to share their expertise and wisdom. That's at 10 o'clock Eastern on the 4th of May. We're going to be doing some really fun giveaways. And you guys are going to find all of that information down below. Of course, if you're listening to this after May 4th, that means the book is ready. It's on Amazon, and you need to get your butt over there and get yourself that copy. You're going to be amazed. Ladies, you are true badasses in my mind, just stepping up to share the authentic stories of your lives and also teach our readers something that they can do to connect with their ancestors and really realize what's possible for their healing. I thank you again, all of you, for being here. You guys, please also join the authors in the Ancestors Within community on Facebook, which is a place you can go and rub elbows with these ladies and ask questions and be with other readers and get into conversations about this. That's a game-changing event when you can have these kinds of discussions with other people who are on the journey with you. Super awesome. I have the link for you down below. And until next time, everybody, what if the thing you're still a little afraid to share is exactly what someone needs to hear to change or even save their life? It's time to be brave. Explore all the Brave Healer offerings for healers ready to share your brave words with the world at bravehealer.com. Thank you, ladies. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.